Hello, and welcome to Unapologetics. I am Brently.
And I'm Nikki. Okay, so let's start talking about the latest kerfuffle
It's a kerfuffle. Yeah.
on the interwebs amongst the leftists, which is only a term used by people on YouTube and
Yeah.
like TikTok. It's like, I think its meaning just has to be like people who are openly left on the internet.
Yes.
Cause like,
No, I mean, I was told honestly that it means it's left. So like they told me no, you're liberal, you're not a leftist, right? Because I was like,
okay,
I'm not a communist and I'm not a socialist, and so they said it had to
okay,
more to do with those things. But okay, okay, yeah, I don't know. I'm like I'm on the left. I don't know. I guess I oversimplified the shit out of that.
okay. See, it's
Like,
like it's its own world,
yeah.
right? Okay. So Anna Kasparian, who we all know from her TYT fame and debate Tommy Lauren and debate Ben Shapiro, she's very well known.
Oh yeah.
Um, and you're gonna if you watch any sort of left tube, as they say, you're going to eventually get to a TYT video.
Yeah.
So she's all over the place. Anyway, this week,
Yeah, she okay, so I don't know what happened, like what broke down in her mind or whatever, but she did this tweet, right? So I guess there is a hearing going on right now, where they're just the Democrats are trying to discuss a bill or whatnot, and it specifically has to do with people that give birth, right? Uh,
mhm,
and so they were using that specific language. So I guess in response to that, she came out and she was like, she did a tweet and said, "I'm a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus, birthing person, or person who menstruates. How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this shit." Right? And yeah, and she rightfully, in my mind, got dragged for this almost immediately after by basically her own audience being like, "What the fuck,
and
dude?"
I mean low key the right too, because they were joking all over the place. So I don't know. My first instinct, the thing I want to talk about first, I guess, with this whole thing is where is the tone coming from? Like,
Right.
first of all, who are you mad at? Because that's one of the biggest problems with this tweet is it's like it's one of those tweets that's meant to have everybody fighting at shadows, right? So you immediately make people who recognize this obviously as turf language, like rightfully, like, what are you doing? Who is this for? Let's be very specific because this comes off as the same bullshit that we've been seeing for years. And then for people on the right, it's like, oh boy, see, even they can't be pure. And now watch all the leftists come in here and bully them into saying sorry. And it's just a shit
Yeah.
show.
That's what I mean. And honestly, and that's what's so crazy that she doesn't get that. Like, does she not, first of all, does she not have these conversations online?
This is what I'm saying. I
Like,
was
has
like,
she not heard the
did she
rhetoric that
just
she's using?
let us know that she
The
not
fuck?
only like she just doesn't know any trans people and doesn't have any
Right.
trans people in her space? Like, is this what we just learned? Like, is this what are you
Certainly
trying to
seems
tell us, Anna? Because again, who is this for? And where is all this like you can support the transgender community without doing this shit.
yeah.
Like, girl, you at work, or at least this should be
Right.
about work. So, not saying that like respect, I'm not trying to say like respectability politics or whatever, but I'm just trying to say you're being paid for how you communicate. And this is the best you can muster because again, her boss has since got on the internet and said that she's the best TV talk show host in the world. I think he
We
said the
can't. Yeah, we
world.
can't remember. It's
I
the
hope
world
he said
or
the world.
America.
He better have said the world, because if you're making fucking outlandish claims like that, there's absolutely no reason to put a fucking border on it.
The
Like,
universe. She's the
yes,
greatest of the
clearly
universe. Yeah.
the
Oh yeah.
universe, all the known
All the
universe.
cosmos. Fuck it. The
Yes,
cosmos. Okay.
everything. Like,
The
stick
multiverse. What?
stick the
Okay.
landing. Stick the landing. Um but it's like, it's just a shitty way to communicate in the first place. But also it's just like, who are you so angry about? And because but anyway, yes, it was just poorly communicated, and then it just exuded so much anger and emotion, and everyone's like, who is catching the stray? Like, who's
Yeah.
included in this? And it's hard to read it as any other way than people who are being inclusive to trans people, and then thus trans people.
Hold on.
Fucking Carrie Lake in your
Carrie
mentions,
Lake.
agreeing with
It's
you.
like totes. Totes,
Carrie
broski.
Lake.
You and me, we get it, right? We get it. It
Mhm.
reminds me of that we are just watching Parks and Recreation, and it's like the one where they did the portrait and she was like topless and was like just to defend like art or whatever. And then they brought on also like a porn star. She's like, what we do. She's like, no, not what
What
we no,
Leslie and
I
I
don't
do.
that's not we don't do the same thing. No. It's just like that's like but it's just funny because like once I don't know, she's but yeah, this once people like this start showing up though, you're kind of like, dude, maybe
But like,
maybe you're doing
once you
something
put
wrong.
yourself in a situation where Carrie Lake is derisively agreeing with you,
Right.
shouldn't you at that point say, maybe I walked into something I didn't understand?
Yeah.
Because anything I say should not be picking up traction over there. I'm sorry. Like, the two should not meet, really, on most things. Maybe like violence, but for the most part, the two shall not meet.
The two shall not, yeah, it shall not pass. But oh man, where's
What are you looking
the
for?
Matt Dillahunty response? I didn't even see
It
that.
even had Matt quite active. Look, Matt,
Yeah,
like I
Matt
know him.
Dillahunty was out. I was surprised, like, wait, what?
There he
Because
goes.
okay, so he says there is a category person with a uterus. Some of those persons are women, some aren't. I won't call you that, but whether or not you're a part of that set is a matter of fact, not opinion. But keep lecturing on how to support the transgender community, expert.
Mm,
I was like,
it's a word.
that's
No,
like,
but it's
that is
100%
true.
true. Like,
Yeah.
listen, it should bother you that you can't see yourself in something that clearly applies to you.
Yeah.
And it also is just weird because, okay, like, I think this is a point I was trying to make earlier of like, as someone who doesn't fit the stereotypes of ideal womanhood for so many different reasons, I'm not feeling any kind of way about this. And I'm certainly, even if I did have this opinion, it would pale in comparison to the very real trauma and just violence that's happening against trans people right now.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
absolute trans and binary, non-binary people. Like, it is very real. It's having very real consequences. It's I just can't imagine situating my petty feelings about this, because let's be real here, like, women has never been the correct term for healthcare that applies to people with uteruses and birthing people, right? Because even if
hmm,
you don't want to act like trans men exist and non-binary people exist, there's still the reality that little girls are a part of this too. And little girls and teenagers are not women. They're just not.
right.
And but they very much have
Have a
healthcare
uterus.
needs, and they very much sometimes are forced to carry like fetuses to full baby making birth. That's what that word is.
So, yeah, birth. Yeah, so.
Birth. It was really hard. I was like,
It's
there's
like,
a process that's called that. My God.
there's a word for this. I know. Yeah,
But yeah.
and you're right. Little girls are like part of this, and like so acting, and little girls like are by definition not a woman.
Mhm.
So, but they are still something, a person with a uterus. Like, this
Mhm.
is not. I don't understand why this is
And to
so
say
hard.
this, and to say
We're
this
talking about a
when
thing. That's why we mentioned
the
thing we're talking about.
history 100%, and to say this
Yes.
when the history of gynecologic, gynecology, that's the word, and obstetrics have been built on creating an ideal motherhood and women that very much favor someone who is and looks like Anna Kasparian. And to have had that for years, oftentimes at the expense of other people's bodies, and especially still today, and to say that out loud and not hear that, like, whatever you're saying right now is the pettiest concern. Clearly, clearly. Like,
Yeah.
the problem with the we're talking about healthcare for people with uteruses and birthing people. That is what that's what Congress was doing. Like,
Yeah.
it is what they were doing.
That's
And
exactly
it was
what
in
they
a
were talking
clinical
about.
and
Jeez.
political context. And when you're in a clinical and political context, you want it to be as clear as possible, and you want it to be as inclusive as possible, because what we're not doing is creating policy based on how we feel. We're creating policy based on the very real areas of people's lives that need that. So your petty concern about language right now is actually not important. Sorry, it isn't. I know you want it to be, but it is actually not important or germane to what we're doing right now. But if you want to have a side conversation on it, clear. Like, again, people are allowed to feel how they feel, but that means maybe doing a tweet where you're asking a question of, like,
Right.
how do we do this? Maybe you invite some people to the table, because more people have a say in it than just people who identify as women. And they should, because again, this care is for all of us. Like, it's just it, and it's yeah. The fact that this came off this hostile is still just the most, it's wild to me. It's absolutely wild. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
It did. Yeah. And it was, you're right. She just was like, I don't know, just so mad about being like she was. It was. It's like what I'm trying to think like how I said it. It's like, oh, like being in Florida, and I'm a person in Florida, and being like, but you didn't say man though.
Mhm.
You didn't say a man in Florida. You said a person in Florida. I'm more than just where I am.
Mhm.
Okay, I am a man in Florida. You didn't see. You said a person. That's just, man. Come on. And that's what it sounds like to me. It's like we weren't specific to what they
We didn't
wanted.
cater to you.
We didn't cater to you. Yeah.
Because again,
It's like specifically like
one of my
what the
biggest issues with the right in general is how they need everyone else to live a certain way to validate their choices. You identify as a woman. We hear you loud and clear, and I'm hard pressed to think of any situation in which you are not addressed as a woman. I can't imagine it. I cannot imagine it. But we hear you. But at the end of the day, oh man.
Okay, fine, bud.
But it's
I'll
like,
deal with bone.
cater to me. You've already been catering to me for so long, and we've said that that's a problem, and it leads to all of these bad outcomes. But I still want you to go with the bit, because my validation as what I identify myself as is more important than anything else being done right now. In spite of all the anti-trans everything activism that's going on right now, that you cover on the show that
Right.
you're on.
That you talk about every fucking day. This is crazy. How is she? I don't understand how she could be this. I don't know, lost on the matter when she understands the stakes as well as she does, and is still like just
We're assuming
like
that,
just
right? We're assuming that. Because
yeah.
now the question, because now, right, all of these takes that have been happening in the past, like basically since COVID hit, you're starting to wonder, like, oh, have we been slowly watching the real Anna this whole time, who has insane takes on the houselessness and homeless problem that
Yeah.
are devoid of any kind of analysis of how anything works? And the
Yes.
very system that you are talking about on your show, capitalism, like, is this the same Anna who was like willing to support a right wing mayor basically because that she said, oh my God, yeah. willing to support that because crime is out of control. It's like, what?
She said
Who is this
and
person?
said that family-friendly drag shows go too far sometimes, and that's offensive. I mean, that it is offensive what they do at drag shows sometimes when they're family-friendly. Not even thinking about the fact that that could be faked easily, but I don't know.
Or
It's
also
frustrating.
that it's not the end of the world if you're willing to have conversations with your children about how the world actually is and help them process what just happened, if they indeed even understand what just happened. Because again, we're the ones that make them feel weird about sex. They're not naturally born just like, having all of these ingrained like purity things. They're like,
No,
it is taught over time
yeah,
about how to be ashamed of your body, how to think about bodies and sex in ways that are shameful.
right.
Like, this is not even, I don't know. And if you see something or have something happen, I think that's why they go so crazy over like listen, child abuse and like pedophilia, all of it is fucking terrible. It's awful. And I think we need to recognize it happens a lot by a lot of different types of people. And there's so many survivors. And maybe it's not great for us to talk about it in a way where it's like, oh, they took their innocence and they made them, terrible for the rest of their lives. Like, maybe it's something like why we talk about breast cancer as far as survival and resilience and all that stuff. Why don't we talk about child sexual abuse in the same way? But
Yeah, that's a good point.
that's
You're
another
right.
thing for
That's
another thing. But it's all about
huh.
this purity stuff. It's all
Yeah.
about this like sex being so bad and so scary and our bodies being just sin, just so like just seeing it is a sin.
Yeah. Lusting after in your heart, just
You don't
feeling
even have to
anything.
lust. You can just look at it and it's
Right. Yeah.
a literal sin. That's why you have all these like no fat clubs and like porn is evil. I have no doubt that some people have an addiction, quote unquote, to the process of watching porn and or masturbating. No problem accepting that.
Well,
But
yeah.
like everyone has those problems with all kinds of things. It
Yeah.
is not specific to pornography.
Well, and it's also with that one, I think too, it's a I don't know, you're right. But it's the motivation of saying, "Hey, this is a bad thing," that causes them to believe that they have an addiction. Because now addiction is when you do stuff you don't want to do, right? So you
Mhm.
believe you don't want to be doing it, you do it anyway, right?
Yeah.
That's I mean, if, in this like sense, right? So we'll work like as an addiction because we can also go into the chemical stuff, and that's not what we're talking about. But like it's having that feeling of I'm doing something wrong, but I'm doing it anyway. That is something that happens with porn, but that's only because of just like what you were saying, just almost like the friend, like it's because of the norms that we have, like almost like you said, like a
Yeah.
Jane Austen type of thing of like the expectations sort of get in the way of everything. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
I
and what
guess
everybody's supposed to be and
my
supposed to
point
do.
is like
And
I don't think that porn has any sort of special properties that would put it above gambling or uh over exercising or
yeah.
what else, like alcohol
Alcohol,
or
I
drugs.
mean,
Like
those just
it's
have a physical
yeah,
component
but
as well. But
so
it's at
all
the end of the day, it's
addictions
all
do.
yeah,
All addictions do. There's you can't get away from it. All of it involves your body. That is the whole point. It is to engage your physical and mental at the same time. Like it's
yeah.
all encompassing. So
And it's just mostly about like just believing that you need a thing. That
yeah.
usually is what it all surrounds.
But for
That's why
those that do see porn as having some sort of special addictive properties that's leading to an erosion in our culture and all this stuff, I guess I just don't buy that. Because I'm
mm,
like, first of
yeah.
all, porn has existed for a very long time. The fact that you can get such high def and different scenarios now, I don't even know that that really, I don't know. Show me, I can see how it could lead to individual results of like
Okay.
not
Yeah.
having being able to have great relationships. But again, it's about the addiction, not the porn. I don't know.
Yeah,
How do we
no,
get
it's
on
about
this?
the
Anyway, we
mental.
don't
Yeah,
have to
okay.
keep going down this road. Mental
Anyway,
auntie,
found
you are
mental auntie.
right. And
Yes.
I
Good
love
good
that. But
tweet.
keep lecturing on how to support the transgender community expert. Because that's another thing. Like, if you feel like there are better ways to help the transgender community, then say it, girl. Give it to us.
Yeah.
Why are you gatekeeping this information? You have a problem. What's the solution? Oh, that's right. It's not for anyone else to decide. It's for whoever you lobbed this shit on to wrestle over and deal with while you just get to have your feelings. It's just so, it's like Angelica and like Rugrats. It's just such a reaction to real life that seems like she thinks she's the main character.
Yeah.
And so everyone needs to stop and solve something for her, solve this for her.
Right. Okay.
I don't know. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I
Like,
want to go
that's the
to,
thing. She's unable to step out of her own immediate fucking feelings about this matter.
yeah.
Which is like, again, like I've dealt with this before, just like with the fucking Smalley thing. I got so mad, and but it it just turned out that I was just not, I don't know, I was just taking things too personal, and I was immediately reacting and not
Mhm.
thinking about anything,
Mhm.
and that was what I was doing. And like after, like, over time, I've been like, oh man, yeah, I get what people were, what the actual problem was, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I see what's going on here. It's like a slow down. Let's fix this and move on.
And it's not
But
always easy to do in the moment, and I get that.
yeah,
And uh I don't think anyone owes an apology on a certain timeline. So if it comes whenever it comes, fine, but you can't expect people to just trust you after you throw out something so, in my opinion, vicious, and then want to double down on it. Because I want to talk about this tweet that Mike from the Humanist Report tweeted at her, because I think, one of the things I think is going to come from this is this sort of automatic defensiveness. We've already seen it from Jink. We can watch the video that she did the next day after this tweet thread,
mhm,
and you know, see the sort of feeling that's coming from this is like, okay, now this is about your right to say it, which it always comes down to. And it's like, it's crazy to me because it's like, again, no one's questioning your right to say it. Everyone's
no,
just saying that what you're saying is stupid. And so don't say it anymore.
yeah,
Like, it's not, and if you do, then that means you willingly you're being willing and obtuse, and you're not and then people get to question, well, what are your motives really,
yeah,
because you're saying things that don't make any sense. Because it's not that like you're not allowed to feel how you feel. It's just like, girl, nobody cares. Nobody fucking cares right now. Anyway, like, there are bigger fish to fry, and the fact that you think everybody needs to stop and change language for you, even when it's already qualified that it's clinical language and a usually clinical or political statement, and that in the real, like, quote unquote, the world, everyone is treating everybody how they want to identify, and they're going to default to things like woman, obviously. So who are you really oppressed by? What
right.
is really going on here? Anyway,
Yeah.
so Mike says, I respect you a lot, but this notion that the mere existence of trans inclusive terms, rarely used in casual convos, somehow degrades women comes right out of the right's anti trans war on women playbook. That's the reason why they're praising you for this. So, Mike is, his name is Mike, right?
I don't know. I was hoping you're right about that. 'Cause
At
I
me
don't know.
too, because I just
He's
realized,
the Humanist Report dude. Like,
how
he's
do I know it's
cool
Mike?
dude. Like, he reminds me of everybody I used to hang out with at Foo Bar.
I
That's who he is.
just,
Yep.
I
Tattoos,
feel
beards.
like,
Anyway, I like him though. He's a nice guy.
see, wait,
What?
Mike, yes,
Oh,
there it
that's right.
goes.
Because she responds. What?
Figurado. Yes.
Okay. Hi,
Anyway.
Mike. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
That's why. You're right.
Obviously.
You're right.
It's right there the whole time.
I thought maybe you asked me, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't.
I was like, let me
What?
go look at his bio,
What?
and it's literally right there. Oh boy.
Shit.
Don't mind that, folks. That wasn't real. That didn't really happen.
I'll take it.
So I think, first of all, let's note how he does this thing where he already feels like, maybe I need to write this in a way that like brings her ego, like that assuages her ego a bit. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not coming at you, I'm not coming for you, but I just genuinely want to understand, do you know this added context? Because, right, everything we say matters in the context in which it is said.
Yeah.
And Twitter is one of those spaces already where everyone is expected to know the context at all times.
Right.
But if you're making money on being the best leftist TV host in the world, you really should know the
You
context,
gotta
because
be
you
careful. Like, how are you?
speak to way too many people to be behind the regulars who just go on Twitter sometimes.
Right.
Like, how you behind the regulars? You know what I mean? Like, what's going on? You're supposed to be tapped into these things, or we hope so, because you keep using stories about this on your show. So, do you care or don't you?
Right.
Anyway, so she responds, "Hey, Mike, you're a guy who has no clue. You're a guy who
You're a
has
guy.
no clue what it's like to have your reproductive freedom taken away. But consider what it's like to have the same lawmakers who failed to protect our rights turn around and call us people with uteruses. It's not inclusive if cis women hate it." Whoa, boy.
Jesus
Let's
Christ.
let's it's like, first of all, that first sentence is such a doozy that it's like, the rest is just gonna be banger after banger of bad shit.
It's like,
Like,
you're
and
not allowed to be supportive of my rights, okay?
it does not
You don't get
disappoint.
it.
It does not disappoint at all. Anyway,
It's
first
fucking
of all, I
what,
just
dude?
love this. Alejandra be on the internet, be telling them people. She has no filter, and I love that shit. She said, "Oh, fuck off with this stupid made up bullshit," and I love it. I love it. Just say how it is. But anyway, let's talk about this blurb that she blurted. So first of all, you have no clue what it's like to have your reproductive freedom taken away.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, do you know anything about Mike? I don't know if Mike isn't a trans man. I don't know that. I don't know that about Mike. I
Yeah.
don't know if Mike has a fucking uterus or not. I have
Yeah.
no idea. And I think that that's healthy for me to not assume things like that. But she went ahead and did. Let's say that Mike is a cis man. Let's go with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Um to have your reproductive freedom taken away. First of all, you're not the only person who had your reproductive, like, women are not the only ones affected by this.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about men right now. I'm talking about trans men. I'm talking about trans women. I'm talking about fucking children.
Right.
A lot of people
Everybody, yeah.
are
That
affected, like, just like affected by the actual medical issue, like the fucking,
the thing we're talking
yeah,
about
the
that she's
freedoms that were
referring
taken
to.
away.
Yeah.
But then it's also just kind of like, you're not the supreme victim here.
No.
Okay? Why you don't need to do that to someone that knows. That's my thing. Like, Mike knows. He is not someone that would take an issue like that as not serious. But the reality is, we're not talking about the same fucking things. And it's weird that you think we are. It's weird that you said something that came straight out of a transphobic playbook.
Yeah.
Then someone questioned you on understanding said transphobic playbook. And then you brought it back to, like,
But I don't like it.
abortion. I don't get
Oh,
it.
right. Yeah.
What?
But
So
I'm a person with a uterus and I don't like it.
it's like basically saying, this is a
Oh.
women only issue. You don't get to have a say. And I just don't understand what kind of feminism that is. I don't understand what kind of feminism that is. And I don't understand why we would want it.
It
It is not, it's weird. It's just a replication of what we've already had. I don't want it.
You know what it reminds me of? Yeah, exactly. You know what it reminds me of? I remember back in the day, right, when I was growing up, they would like there'd not be a lot of stuff about God and stuff, on like TV or whatever. And I remember like we would all like be like, yeah, they're talking about God. That's cool. Right? Yeah, but they didn't mention Jesus. Okay, they didn't say Jesus. So I mean, God, why are they even bringing it up? It's not a bit, And it was just like, hey, they didn't say my very specific thing,
That's it.
And I'm mad about it, even though like they brought up like something, whatever, but they didn't address my thing, though.
And but
That's
it's also
crazy,
just it's all it comes out of nowhere, right? It's like, were you just looking for something?
right?
Because nothing about anything you know about Mike would tell you that he would not be in support of your reproductive freedom. But also, that's not what
Right.
we're talking about right now. We're asking you a very specific question about a very specific thing. And it's interesting that her first response is, you don't get to ask me anything at all.
Yeah.
Because you may have a penis, which is somehow some kind of original sin.
Right. It's because you were talking about that one cut, like the original was it original feminism, which is like the type of
Yeah.
feminism like sees the penis as being like an
It's
axiomatically bad
I
thing.
don't want to like put it in a category because it's not just like second wave feminism and it's not just like
Okay.
rad fem. It's this, I don't know, it's something that has existed, that's always going to exist in a space like this because like listen, it's not crazy to assume that the people who are being abused by the patriarchy sees the male as the problem and then just carte blanche like fuck all men. That is obvious. It's quite reductive. We get it. But it's also not liberating
Right.
either for anybody. Like
Yeah.
it's just it doesn't lead us anywhere except for the opposite, which is not fun. Like I don't want to rule anybody, and I know I my ally can have any kind of genitals and any kind of gender expression. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's the whole. Isn't that the
Like
point
it
here?
doesn't matter. But
What's good for like all of us is what's good for me. You know what I mean? That's
you would
like
think. But
that seems to
anyway,
be the
not to Anna.
Jesus.
So let's go to the next question. But consider what it's like to have the same lawmakers who failed to protect our rights turn around and call us people with uteruses. So the point is, later in this thread, she sort of admits that the people who fail to protect our rights are people like AOC who use the term talking about this week there was a hearing on maternal health care, people with uterus, birthing people, healthcare. And all I'm pretty sure all those words were used, but also like people with uteruses and birthing people were used specifically to talk about clinical things related to the hearing, which because that's what a hearing is. It's sort of about fact finding. It's supposed to be anyway. And supposed to it's the avenue for lawmakers to get the specific information they need to be able to make better policy or to hold people accountable when they do bad things. Like that's all
Right.
hearings are. Like
Yeah.
they're used for specific purposes. And so it's not surprising that they're using terms that are now being championed in research and in clinical settings because it's more specific of what you're doing. Because if you have some sort of new treatment for the uterus, it's not going to be just for women. That's not true. It's going to be for a lot of different types of people. And so it is inclusive language. But yeah, that's what she means by lawmakers who fail to protect our rights. I guess that's Democrats and
Weird.
people like AOC.
It just seems like it's just crazy that she says something because it almost seems like she just doesn't understand what she is saying on her show all the time.
No.
That's I mean, it really comes off that
I
way.
mean, it
Like it's
makes
just
sense
like,
that
wait,
she's not
what?
reading those scripts though, because have you watched it? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
That
I
was
mean,
rude. But
yeah, you can tell when she goes off cuff, she just starts
greatest TV
laughing.
talk show
Best ever,
host in
best ever,
the world.
the world.
I
Totally,
love how
it's
her boss
absolutely
came
awesome.
on this internet and made it worse for her. Um,
I know, dude. Like, can't you? You should be out here in front, being like, actually, it's all right. Look,
you know what I
hey,
was
hey.
expecting, and I know that it's fucked up, but you know what I was really expecting. I should have saw it coming from them, but I was really expecting one of those like, you know how when programs have people go off and they come out and say like so and so's behavior is
Not
not a reflection of
right.
party's values.
Yeah.
I was
TYT
like
corporations or any
I was
affiliates or any sponsors
I was
from which, yeah.
expecting something like that. Like they're just gonna move right past it, but it actually makes sense that it's going to be used as some sort of free speech um warrior situation because the next sentence is it's not inclusive if cis women hate it. And so it's like, of course, don't speak for me, first of all. And second of all, there are tons of people in these mentions who are cis women who disagree with you vehemently for so many different reasons, not just because they actually see trans people as humans and should be included, trans and non binary folks. Like, they don't matter, I guess. She's
Right.
speaking like,
Yeah, what
but
the
she
fuck?
knows her type of cis women that believes this are onto something.
Yeah.
They are onto something. And can I just say to you, like, fail to protect our rights? That makes me so like, is she too? Because
Yeah.
okay, what I'm going to say is, were the Democrats derelict in their duty to protect all kinds of rights as it pertained to lots of minority groups, not just in oppressed groups, but definitely, you know, women and people with uteruses and like birthing people? Abso-fucking-lutely. Like, there
Yeah.
is no doubt that they dropped the ball. But I also feel like this shit sucks because it never acknowledges that, like, this has been a 20 to 25-year project for the right. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is not, it's not like they were just late to a vote or they ran the wrong candidate. It is that we did not have the infrastructure in any way to combat what was coming down the legal pipeline as far as conservative, you know, legal people, um
Yeah.
members of the judiciary or whatever. We just weren't prepared and we fucked up. Absolutely. Like, I say we, like, I'm just such a strong Democrat, but like, yeah, they fucked up. But it's also just weird that you're angry at the people who are using inclusive language as it comes to this issue, because if there's any evidence that maybe this time they will listen and try to do better, it's the fact that they're at least using inclusive language, right?
Right.
Like, that means they understand the gravity of the issue and who it all affects, and that should make it even more important of an issue, because we are, you know, we're talking about a huge group of people here,
Yeah.
and
And they're
and
not all like categorized as women. Like, and that's
I
okay.
don't get
And it's like that.
it.
You're right. That should be a sign of like the Democrats actually getting something right for once. And you're mad about that. Like, and you're just like, really, man? Like, how do you flip?
How do
How do you
you
get backwards on this
interpret
shit?
that?
It's
Yeah,
like,
how do you interpret it as getting, like,
she's
and I
drunk.
think that's why, like,
That's what I was thinking. And
seriously,
like,
like, I feel like that's why so many people are so thrown off by it, and it's creating such a huge reaction, because this has always been something that's been lurking, right? Is this sort of fear that the YouTube sort of TikTok left space is not very good sometimes at recognizing when they're dropping breadcrumbs for the wrong people.
yeah,
And when and how they are, and sometimes dehumanizing people and the trauma that they're experiencing in pursuit of trying to seem objective, because even I have complaints about the left.
right. Yeah,
And
that's
it
yeah,
becomes this posture of like, I'm not on the right, but I'm definitely not one of those wokey pansy
yeah,
lefties.
yeah.
And so,
It's
but the only way you can do that is by laundering their language,
right.
because they need to hear certain things to be, to know that they're included,
Yeah.
because everything is
Well,
about a way of saying
well,
it,
and
you
you
know?
can exactly, and you could tell what whose rhetoric they're like conforming to based on how they say things, and they think that they're not that people can't see that about them, but
Hmm.
when you're framing things in a particular light, it kind of demonstrates that you are using information you've gathered based on narratives that are coming from a particular side.
Yeah.
That it's not hard
Hmm.
to figure out.
I
I mean,
agree.
it's like, I mean, almost like when you see Sam Harris, you know, and he's like, "Look, I am totally against Trump, and Trump is a terrible, terrible president, but I am also against this woke, evil nonsense that is coming from the left because I'm objective. I'm a scientist."
And it's, you
That
just want to go like,
is
what are you talking about, dude?
like, stop trying
What are
to
you
be.
talking about, dude?
You're
And then they
getting
give
duped,
you
man.
examples like the way the mainstream media talked about Joe Rogan and ivermectin.
Yeah,
And
that's
you're
it.
like,
MSNBC called it horse
what?
paste.
Like, really?
It's like, really, man? That's the
Really?
same. Yep, that's the same as Tucker
Hmm.
Carlson admitting that he's lying on purpose out loud, and even still, the people like, I don't. That's
Like,
fake news, though. That's the
full
fake news right there, bro.
full on saying
Tucker
things
didn't
that
say
you would
that.
expect to hear
It's
at
George
like a
Soros.
fucking white power meeting on the internet for everyone to hear.
Yeah. Jesus.
And you're worried about ivermectin and Joe Rogan?
Yeah, they didn't.
Dude,
They said that
priorities, priorities. But
she lied about Joe. They lied about Joe.
oh god. Anyway, so yeah, it's a huge what the fuck moment, because it's just like, you come on here, you're pissed off at somebody, you just don't care who gives it to you or who accepts it, whatever, just take it.
Yeah,
And then on top of that, you're rude to your allies, which is just unkind. There's just no
right.
purpose in that. Like,
The fuck is
I
going
get
on?
it, it's Twitter, everybody's has an edge or whatever,
Snarky,
but
snark, snark, snark,
I
snark.
just it it
That's like everybody.
it makes me uncomfortable. It makes me very uncomfortable. And it makes me think that she's kind of simple in a way, because if all it takes is for someone with a penis to ask you something that you may take as critical, then who's allowed to question anything? Who's allowed to talk to you at all?
Right.
Whose opinions are you taking? Like, who do
And she
you
doesn't.
respect? Who do you trust? Like, what all, like, you're saying your information comes out of a very small silo that only includes people, like women who have uteruses. They're the only ones who are allowed to have an opinion on what you just said.
Right.
It's very
And
weird.
and she doesn't even get that she's the way she's lashing out at it is just exactly in the like that's it's ultra conservative. It's almost like she's her head stuck
I'm
in
telling
like a
you.
conservative worldview while she's also trying to traverse like the news where she's thinking that she has to come to these like make these arguments for the left. But at times like this, you're like, are you just
Yeah.
making this is a game, and you're just making arguments, and then every so often there's a fucking what is like a Freudian slip almost, if you say like a Twitter Freudian slip, where you just like say the exact thing you actually think
Mhm.
against all of what you're supposed to think publicly. Like that's yeah, that sucks.
But that's the thing. No
That's
one's
not
supposed to think anything publicly. You're only supposed to think whatever you feel. And that's why I'm saying, like, you're allowed to feel this, but it's just some things don't need to be shared publicly if it's going to lob a bunch of shit on people who don't deserve it, and draw a bunch of attention from people you should hate.
and like all this, and
Like,
you're
you should
yeah,
not want any contact
God.
with these people at all.
And all you had to do was, like you said, put it into like a question form, right? Be like, is it weird that I feel like go, and say your grievance, right? Because then people could have been like, actually, it is because this is not
No,
like
it still would
a
have come off as bullshit, because it still comes off as just asking questions. Like, no, say how you feel, and then ask people, whatever. Like, see a response to this,
yeah,
and then inform yourself or take some time to think about it. And maybe she will.
yeah,
Like, this just
hope so,
happened this week. It's not, fine.
yeah,
But and it seems like she's had 24 hours at least to think about it. So let's look at that video that she posted.
oh yeah, yep.
um oh, and you know what? I think what we were talking about is the second wave feminism. I think I got off on that. But
Oh yeah,
there is this way in which the thing I don't seem to like so much about um it's like this way in which, like, I have no interest in policing the boundaries of gender and womanhood, because I know that I'm not included in the ideal version of womanhood as it exists. And so there's no point in policing those boundaries, because I already don't exist. I don't exist with them at all. And so for me, it's better to keep them as open as possible and as inclusive as possible, because I don't want to get pulled under any sort of ideals about who I am and what I should believe based on gender, because I truly believe we're all laboring under patriarchy, and what we have in common is trauma. And that's not really, you don't build, it's hard to build something that lasts on that, because at the end of the day, if someone can make a different choice and not be subjected to that trauma, which we saw, like 51% of white women still voted for Trump. So they very much thought they would not be subjected to the trauma. And when people can rationally make that choice out loud, then what is that bond really based on?
right.
I don't know. So to me, it's weird to me how women who in many ways do fit into that role, right? Like your JK Rowlings, your Ana Kasparians, the people who, let's be honest, like small, attractive women, white women particularly, the women who fit in those roles seem to be very interested in policing the boundaries.
Mm.
And you can't help but wonder if it's because what we've been saying this whole time is true, which is that yes, being categorized woman is its own oppression, but within that oppression there's all these privileges
Mm.
as well. And the more you're able to fit into those boundaries, the more you want to police them because you are somehow getting
Mm.
privileges from that.
Okay. I see what
And
you're saying.
so because like culturally, right, everything's catered to white women. Like I
Yeah.
said, the even motherhood and like pregnant bodies. Like you can probably go like look at a pregnant, like I think there's a magazine called Pregnant or just like Motherhood, and just see how many different types of people have been on the cover of that magazine for the past 30 years or whatever.
Right.
And you'd probably see a pretty clear pattern of what the ideals of motherhood and of pregnancy look like. Like it's not hidden. We know what this is.
Yeah.
So when you come out of the gate like, I feel like I'm being replaced, what you're
You didn't say
really
the right thing.
like, all we hear is you acknowledging the privileges that have already existed and getting angry at those that are attempting to tear down those privileges. And it makes you seem so petty
Yeah.
and just so far off the plot. And I just don't think they get that.
No.
They just
Yeah.
think, oh, I'm not allowed to say how I feel.
Right.
And everyone else is like, you're allowed to say how you feel, but how you feel is like a child.
Well, right. Exactly. It almost reminds me of like when, okay, so like in Florida, they did this thing where everybody has to get paid $15, right? It's like they upped the minimum wage, right? And I was basically making that. I had just started earning pretty much $15 an hour, right?
Mhm.
And so this law went through, and everybody was like, "Aren't you going to be mad that like people are now starting like where it took you so long to make?" And in my head, I'm like, I could see why people would be mad about that, but at the same time, why the fuck is it taking me this long to make that amount? It's bullshit. I should have been making it, a long
Yeah,
time ago. Just like these people, it's not their fault. I
correct.
get mad at the right fucking people. That's the
Yeah.
like, you're getting mad at the wrong fucking thing, man. Like that's where we're at here. You know what I'm saying? She's wrong. She's mad at the wrong fucking thing.
And the reality is, those people didn't make you lose anything.
Right. No, they didn't.
You've lost nothing.
I still got
And if
everything.
anything,
But more
the
of us have it,
inclusion
and
of
that's cool.
more people could mean all sorts of good outcomes. And in fact, it would, right?
Yeah.
Because the more we care for all bodies, like they all matter, which begins with language. Let's be real.
Right.
Language is very important in establishing that.
Yeah.
Once we do that, it's better for all of us.
Right.
The care goes up for all of us. But it's this reality that some people are already getting great care, right? They're already getting great outcomes. And they truly believe that it's a zero sum game, and giving any attention, even if it's something as I believe is so simple as language, you are somehow taking from me. And again, it is fine to feel that, but it is childish.
Yeah.
It is
Well, I mean,
what children do.
she literally is taking it as disrespect. Like that's what that's the word she said. They're being disrespectful to me by not mentioning my very
But
specific.
no
very
one's talking to you right now.
Like, do you want him to say your race too? They didn't mention me, the white lady. Okay. How rude. Not
No,
mentioning the white lady.
she's ethnic white. She's ethnic white. I can't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. It's like Hungarian? I don't know.
That's
She's
pretty
ethnic white. I
white.
just know she's talks about it a lot, but I can't remember the
That's
country
white.
right now.
I'm Hungarian. That's
No,
like
don't be like that. Don't take
That is
her
the whitest.
ethnicity away. She deserves that. Okay, so this is the day after the tweet and everything. So this is a response.
Jasmine Bryant says, neither trans people or any organization that fights for us wants to refer to you as a birthing person. The language is used in a general sense to include trans men when a general statement is needed. When I'm reading about my rights being stripped away from me by the federal government, and when I'm reading quotes from the Democratic Party that failed to protect my reproductive rights, it adds insult to injury to read not women, but birthing people. I don't want to ever be referred to as a birthing person under any circumstance. I find it offensive. I respect the transgender community. I just ask that they also respect how other people want to be referred to. Person with a uterus, person who menstruates, birthing people. I just find it incredibly demeaning. And I'm allowed to feel that way. I don't think that that's transphobic at all. I will fight to the death for equal rights for the transgender community, period. And we've been doing that on this show. But respect goes both ways. It's that simple.
It's you always know when somebody says, and I'm allowed to feel that way, that they just said something that really matters and isn't petty at all. You know, that's
Wow.
tends to be.
Again, like it's a whole 24 hours later and you're still so
How are you still
hated.
read
Who
the-
are you mad at?
right?
Who are you mad at? Democrats?
Jesus Christ.
Really? I cannot believe she just said she's mad at Democrats for reading inclusive language
during a bill, right? It was like it was
again.
political.
Yeah, again, it was.
What the fuck?
I,
It's for more people than just women. Like it's for all the
and again,
people
it's like
that have
oh
uteruses.
God,
That's
it's
why
just-
they said that.
This video is so bad.
Jesus Christ. How weird, man. They
Yo,
say
they need
Jesus.
PR training. This is terrible. This is so terrible. The thing about it is, anger is one thing, and that's fine, but it's not enough. Like, you say it's just disrespectful. How?
Yeah.
How is it disrespectful? Because again, you're in this binary world where you lost reproductive freedom, but no one else did.
Right.
So if a trans man also lost reproductive freedom, if a 10-year-old little girl also lost reproductive freedom,
Right.
and this language that is women or women and or people with uteruses birthing people, I don't understand. They wouldn't be angry. Why do you get to be angry? What
Right.
makes how you feel the most important? I don't get it. Like I don't understand this. It's like it's almost like there's this two-edged sword where you both enjoy being under attack, and so thus the standing that you receive from being the one under attack is what you use to silence any bit of criticism that could come your way. And on one hand, I get that because some people are say stupid shit all the time. But on the one hand, I don't understand how that's powerful or leads to anything.
Right.
Like, do you think we're going to win back the freedoms that we lost if we just keep saying women?
Right. Well, but that feels like she doesn't understand like what women means anymore. Like she's like literally lost on it. Like like Matt Walsh
know.
fucking got to her, man. She's like, you know what? What is it? Well, I don't even know. He's right. Maybe he's right.
I
Maybe.
don't get it.
I don't because I'm like, what the fuck?
I
It's
just
like
don't
you forgot what you're
get-
doing.
I
It's
think you're
just
right.
like,
I think you're right because I
Jesus.
don't think she has read the room at all. And that will be interesting. That's interesting to me because if you're on a news channel in which you are constantly talking about these stories, I don't understand how they couldn't have affected you by now.
Yeah, right.
I don't understand how they couldn't have affected you in a way that makes you even more conscientious about what bullshit you're putting on the internet, because so much of it is being used to
You have a huge
bully the trans community.
Yeah, you have a huge platform. Like I think and that's how I always say, like with stuff like this, like you always got to think in terms of consequentialism. Like it's not exact. Like what you decide to get outraged about can affect things that get people hurt, especially if you have a platform this large.
Yeah.
And that's like, because now look, she had like Carrie Lake and shit jumping and going, yeah, totes. right up top, girl. And she's like, come on, like, she's like, I still get to be mad at it though. And it's like, you're a fucking idiot. What are you doing? Stop it.
And again, no one is questioning your right to say it. They're just saying you said it at a real, like, first, what you're saying is dumb, but then two, time and place. Time and
Yeah, dude.
place. Like, what? Why are you saying this? Why now? When have, I mean, if you pull up 10 to 12 articles right now on the Dobbs decision, the vast majority of verbiage used is going to be women and girls.
Right.
And so you have some Democrats that are moving towards more inclusive language, because there's no way all of them did that. There's no way Abigail Spangberger is saying people with uteruses. If she is, I will take it back. It's fine. But I would be surprised if every single Democratic representative is using inclusive language.
No, I don't think.
And so you're mad at a few people who you deem personally responsible for Dobbs, even though they weren't the ones personally responsible for Dobbs.
Mm.
It's I can't follow. I can't follow.
Yeah, I don't know where she's. I don't know. Like I said, she seems very like all over the place right now.
Like,
She's just not
again,
thinking about
this is,
shit.
if you're
I don't know,
Tulsi
man.
Gabbard, this makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. If you're Tommy Lauren, this makes perfect sense. Shit, I'm trying to think of, like, I don't even, like, I don't know if, like, this is something I would expect Reese Witherspoon to say, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I just don't see, I don't understand how. This is why I'm so skeptical of left tube at all, because
Yeah.
I just don't know what their sources are. And I'm not saying that
Yeah.
there's only certain kinds of sources, but I'm just saying that, like, for me, one of the biggest reasons I'm progressive is because I love humanity. I love people. And I think that people should have the right to live on this fucking ball in the sky without suffering from cradle to grave. And so we have the duty to keep fighting for better and better circumstances for the least among us, period. And I'm not even religious. Like, I'm not a fucking atheist.
That makes you go in the other direction, by the way. Like, you just like, God will figure it out. Fuck them. What's shit? They probably deserve it because God, is in control.
So if you're on LeftTube and you're getting angry every day at what all these white wing assholes are doing, what then is your contribution by saying this shit? Like, what?
Yeah.
How does this reach anywhere? Because if anything, like, you should want to fellowship with the trans people. You should want to fellowship with the non-binary people. This is where the community is. I know it's like crazy, but like, you're not conservative.
I don't
know.
I swear, I think it's like she's doing that pretend to be objective thing too.
And it's like she's pissed off. Yes, of course. But it's also she's pissed off that as Democrats, we have to do both things. We have to both, if she's including herself in that group, you have to both govern like an adult, because for the most part we are, and then you have to also deal with the constant attacks on people in groups from the right. You have to do both. I'm sorry. You have to do both. Yeah. So you walked into a big old turf trap and everyone called you out on it.
And you took the cheese.
That's it.
Chowing down on the cheese still right now.
And
haven't realized.
Now you gotta accept that, like, you did something actually damaging on the internet, which we all know has power. Yeah. Period. Like, we all know it has power.
Especially with a channel as big as yours, with the reputation that yours has of being ultra progressive, being the one channel that is almost like mainstream media, but that cares about you.
And now every person on the right with a podcast is going to make you into an episode. Mm-hmm. And eventually you're going to be, if you don't back down, you're going to feel so like shit about it that you're going to go on these shows and try to, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just it's this devolving pile of shit. It's just
high five Adam Carolla
and shit and more shit. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know. They're gonna invite you to CPAC. I just
Kanye West is all of a sudden going to get a Twitter account back and start agreeing with you.
I'm saying, oh my goodness. It's just it felt like such an unforced error. What were you thinking? You weren't.
She wasn't. She's just feeling.
You weren't.
Feeling,
She's just
She's feeling
It's like a
herself.
fucking live wire.
in
I'm
a
just
negative
feeling.
way.
Let me get my phone real quick, and I'm gonna dump it up a doop dop bop bop.
Yeah. Fuck all
And
this shit, motherfucker. I'll just fucking show you.
like, but
Get that
again, all
Twitter.
this gender policing is a waste of your time. It's a waste of everybody's time. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It's not real. I'm not saying gender's not real, but I'm just saying that like policing them so
policing it,
only
yeah.
certain things means woman and only certain things mean man is dumb.
Yeah, let it go.
It's
never
so-
going to be consistent.
It's so
never,
stupid.
ever
And
gonna follow.
inclusivity includes you. Inclusivity includes you.
Yeah.
You don't need inclusivity includes you.
That's-
You got to
Alright.
feel it yourself.
Right.
Like, we're inviting you in with the language, but you have to recognize that you're being invited in
Right.
to this grand new circle. And for anyone who's interested in this, I think hold on, let me pull it up, because the great Judith Butler wrote a great op-ed in The Guardian in fucking 2021. Like, that's how long we've been dealing with this shit. Like, even before that, like, all this shit started popping off about like gender policing and gender criticism and the gender question, which is really just like transphobes shitting all over the internet. They're crazy ideas. Anyway, so Judith Butler wrote a op-ed called "Why is the Idea of Gender Provoking Backlash the World Over?" And it's The Guardian, and you should just read it. It's so good.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
It's such a good distillation of like how basically policing gender, it doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help
pan out.
anyone but the privileged, and they know that, and
As
that's
usual.
why they do it. So stop, everybody. It's not that it's not real, and it's not a real problem that we have to, like, for example, I'm so glad that there's so many people jumped on this thread and were like, here's why you're wrong,
Yes.
and here's why that's a problem, and shit, it even got us doing a show.
Yeah. She hadn't done it in a minute.
So
That's cool.
yeah, like, it's important that people immediately push back on this stuff, and for all the specific reasons why it's wrong, not just because, like, you know, just saying, oh, this is transphobic is not enough. Like, here is exactly what's wrong with all of this. And that part, like the fact that it's transphobic, is definitely real, but that's one part of it. But here's why it's transphobic as well. You know, because I think a lot of people just think that like trans people, mostly because of course they assume everyone who's trans is a trans activist, which is insane.
No, that's not
But
true.
let's go with it.
It's just
But they
people.
like assume every single person who's living trans out loud is somehow like in a cabal together, pushing everybody on the internet around, telling them that like what they're saying is wrong and hurting their feelings. And I just think it's so funny that no one, like, a lot of people engage with that instead of thinking that sounds like a lie.
Right.
Immediately.
Like, can't you just, yeah,
that
put your
doesn't
skeptic
sound
hat
real.
on for 2
Like,
seconds.
I
Like,
just-
that don't sound right. There's
There's
something
no
wrong there.
way that like trans people existing on the internet and sometimes telling people why they're wrong is the same kind of problem of like, let's just say, for example, Black people existing on the internet and being called the N-word. Like, I refuse to believe that that's real. That's not real. Like,
Okay.
what is your scale that you're comparing this to? Like, why is this a problem? And also, why is it when someone's rude to you, even if they are, let's say they are rude to you, why is it's enough for you to say, you know, like tut tut and wag your finger and be like, that's why I don't support you, motherfuckers. What is that?
Hell, yeah, that's
It's respectability politics is what it is.
yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And it's not actually valid, and the way you feel isn't actually always valid or pertinent at the moment.
Yeah.
Like, everyone needs to get more in touch with like why our feelings and emotions aren't always telling us the truth.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're appealing to petty parts of us, and that's why it's important to take a beat sometimes and
Well, you got
see where
something.
it's coming from before you put it all on the internet to your thousands of followers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe she has ADHD, which I hear is lately is actually connected to bad emotional outbursts
Mm,
because you don't have the little blocker guy that says, "Hey, there's consequences to saying this."
yeah.
But
That may hey, that
that
may
could be the
very
case.
well
I don't
be.
know.
That may
But
very
she's
well
no.
be.
It's a whole full day later though. Like, well, I mean, I
We
don't
all
know.
have to
I
be
see.
accountable in the end for
Same
whatever
thing.
reason it
She'll
was.
figure it out.
And
I
if
don't know.
that's part of the
Jesus.
reason, then she has every right to let us know. But
Yeah.
you still have to be accountable to what you say
And
and when you say it.
I just hope she fucking figures this out
Well, we're
quick.
gonna
This is
see, right? Because
ridiculous.
this is a part of why we wanted to cover this, because part of the reason why I find this interesting is because for a while now I've had an issue with Ana Kasparian
Yeah.
and TYT in general. And I just don't get it. I don't get TYT. I'm gonna say it right out loud. Like, I have nothing, like, make your money, do your show. I get it. But at the end of the day, I find some of the takes suspect, and I find a lot of the times there's just ranting and raving with very little discussion happening.
Yeah.
And it's all just like, let's take advantage of rage bait. And I get it, it pays the bills. I'm not against it.
Yeah.
But I also just expect better or more nuanced ways of discussing it. And they just don't provide that. I'm sorry. They just don't.
No.
Some of the
Not
hosts are
really.
good. Some of the hosts are really good.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
for the most part, TYT is neither informative or entertainment for me. It's just there.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I just use it to keep up with latest stories because they do. The one thing I will say about them, which is slightly different than what some other people do, they play the clip right away.
Okay.
And then they
Yeah,
talk
that's
about
true.
that. So I at least get to be like, okay, there's a clip, out of here. I'm gone.
Right?
I'm out.
Like, thanks for
Got it.
that. Deuces. I
Yup.
don't need the analysis.
Yup. Yeah. It's
I don't need that. Bye. That's so fucking true.
That's why I think they come up so often. I'm like, dang,
oh my god, that's low-key why I love Emergency Awesome too.
right. Me too. Yeah.
I usually don't even say for all the analysis because it's too much.
It just keeps elaborating.
But like, I trust him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how this keeps playing out, because I don't know, like, I just have a feeling it's going to keep getting messier and messier, because from what we've seen of her and Jink, like, being humble on the internet is not their thing.
Yeah. No. Which, I mean, and it's sad because I actually have a TikTok of Anna doing a correction and being like, when have you ever seen Tucker Carlson do this? Because I actually respect that. Like, a lot of times they would do retractions and make corrections. A lot of the podcasts we listen to do corrections and stuff like that.
Mhm.
You never hear that out of like any right wing fucking anything. And I just thought that was like, oh, we need to, characterize this for a second.
The bar is on the floor with us.
Yeah, pretty bad. Well, thanks for listening. This is great.
Yes. That was very fun. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you bet. I was glad we were able to make it happen. It's awesome. But okay, so what do we say to the haters, discriminators, and masturbators?
Fuck off. I'm sorry, but as someone who, is she chewing on something?
She's chewing on something.
She's found another bottle
God
cap,
damn it.
because Papa leaves bottle caps everywhere.
They go to the bottles that I'm using. So
And our
I
dog
feel like this is easily
wants to do nothing but chew
explained.
plastic.
Yeah, stop chewing. Hold on,
She's a little garbage
Let me
baby.
find
She's
her.
so cute.
Let me find a thing
She's so sad about her cap.
Oh, there's a rope too.
Yeah, I would give her something that doesn't make noises.
Oh, true. why I was weird. I was looking for specifically something that does.